Hey, what's going on, everyone? And welcome to my weekly live stream. This is your boy Freezy. It's Max, and today going to talk about a couple of things. Kind of a slow week for the game, honestly, but I've been doing a little bit of research, and I said I wanted to talk a little bit today about fire bots. And one of the reasons, so I had a question earlier in the chat about what was the thumbnail about. I figured everybody knew I was kind of excited for T2, Megatron, Optimal, Optimus. I'm not letting them steal the show again. I already made videos about them over the weekend, so if you didn't see that, go ahead and check it out. But yeah, I want to talk about firebots. I think that we can get a little bit more out of most of our firebots and bring them more into the meta. So I want to talk about that. And I'm also going to talk about, I'm going to give you guys an update on the progress with the upcoming 5-star batch. Um, little disclaimer, we hadn't started testing them yet. We're testing them soon, but we have been having a couple of good conversations and play tests. So we'll talk about that. And then I want to talk about what I think is going to end up being my secret weapon that I'm going to use on defense. So we'll talk about that a little bit as well. But before we do, let's go ahead and take a look at this week's newsletter. And this week's newsletter is, and I gotta get it so I can scroll. Okay, cool. So this week's event is called Territorial Feud. It is, hold on a second. This it is week 4 of the saga. It's the first week of the new version of the saga. But all right, cool. Um, so anyway, so this is going to be a 500k event, but they're gonna. So let me talk about this a little bit because there was a little bit of uproar about it in Discord this morning. But long story short, this is supposed to be a 500k event. The apes didn't want to change it too much, but they made it a 2 million point event. But when you look at the charts, the prizes are going to stop at the real prizes are going to stop at 500k. So it's still like a 500k event, but it's still going to have additional. It's going to give you some additional time to go in there. If you want to go hunt XP, then you can do so. And I'll tell you this: when we first started trying the shorter event schedule, um, in this saga, one of the things that I did bring to the apes, I said this. I said, you know what? For me and my alliance, I'm an alliance leader. I'm an officer in my alliance, and everyone that first 500k event, folks wanted to go out and then hunt XP, so they were going out helping other alliances and stuff, and that's cool. That's really great. I love to see people helping other people. However, this is the same week that they came out with Alliance HQ. So we had guys that were leaving on Saturday because that's about how long it takes us to finish a 500k. It's like midday Saturday, and then they were coming back in the middle of the night. trying to get back in so they could donate, and it just created a whole mess. So I said to the apes, I said, apes, I would really like to see us just make the events a little bit longer. We can do the prizes earlier, but I wanted to actually see the events last longer, so then people are more inclined to kind of stay home. And you still got a little bit of flexibility. If you talk to your command team, you can go out there and help people and everything like that. But it's just like I just had like half the alliance leave that very first week, and people were just knocking. It was like 3 a.m. when I was like the only member of the command team that was still in, and they were like people were tagging me and stuff. It was crazy, and I was like, I don't ever want to do that again. So the whole point of making the event smaller is like, hey man, we want to try to deal with burnout a little bit, but now you get a little bit of an option on how you want to proceed. You get a little bit of an option is, hey man, we're going to get the 500K, we're going to get the stuff. So honestly, the prizes are a little bit weak for this one. Um, but we just had the big individual totalizer last week. I almost finished that event. Um, I had like 46K on like Saturday, Sunday. I just started spending all my time hanging out with friends, so I didn't finish the event. But I was really really close. And the thing is, I wound up pulling that sword of balance last week. Um, Events have become a little bit of a controversial talking point lately, just because I know a lot of people were talking about not supporting the events, not spending money on the events because of what happened with VIP. I think it was the week prior, and I get it. I really do. I actually played the event out. I talked to some of my friends in Discord about it, but I played the majority of the event because I got bots that I'm working on, and I want them to be good for war. I got new options that I want to use for just different war scenarios and stuff like that. So I played it out. But anyway, so like I said, prizes are okay. It looks about the same as like say like a 10K, 15K event. So you're getting your six 500K by XP cores, 350K spark, and then you're gonna get up to 2.5K of 4 stars, 7.5K of 3 star shards, and 60K premium shards. And then you're gonna get a lot of resources. So yeah, about the equivalent of a 10 to 15K event. Typical battle zones. Season 19 is coming out for the Cyber Pass, and so you can see the charts for it. Um, the new skins for the Cyber Pass are going to be G2 First Aid and G2 Scavenger. Be honest with you, like I already told you guys, I got the G2 Constructicons close to my heart, but I don't actually like the artwork for them as skins, even though I did equip them on my account. The G2 First Aid, I just don't like that much at all. But it's cool. It's cool. They're gonna those are gonna be the skins for this one. Hopefully we can get past this quickly so we can start getting skins I actually like again. But it's all good. Make sure you check out all of your official content creators: Engineer Horse, myself, Soldier, and Sunstreaker Waza. And then a lot of your unofficial content creators we got in here. We got a lot of them in the chat, honestly. So we got Mercenary Terror in here, really, really great content. Let's see, we got Robert C. Ford is in there doing his thing. We got we got a few of them. We got Big Blade in there doing his thing. So we got a lot of folks up there making really good stuff. So make sure you support them as well. I got a lot of these guys on the bio of my page. All right, so it is week. So it really is week one of season 19. So it's really for this saga, that'll be week six. Like I said, they're trying to keep it where it's still like a 500K. We got an individual coming up, supposed to be 20K, another 500K. We'll see how it goes. I think the apes want to really do an experiment with it this time around to see how people respond to the 500K. And I will tell you this: the controversy in Discord today was that there's a lot of people that just want to go out and help lower alliances, and it really depends on depends on a lot of things. Honestly, like if you are in a large alliance family, you probably gonna want to help like some of the lower levels and stuff like that, so that they can grow faster and then work their way up to the larger alliances and everything like that. And I get it, I really do. I've been in that position where I was the one helping. I've been in that position a lot, and I've been in the position where I was a lower level, and I was like, "Hey man, can you guys give us a hand so we can finish the event for 500K?" But at the same time, I start to think this: we were having a bunch of really large events for a long time that most of these guys probably just weren't going to finish. Um, and completing the event, I mean, it's cool and everything if you get help, but I think you're still in a position where you can get other players to help if you go coordinate through your teams. But if to be honest, what I saw and what I complained to Space Safe about was that we went from randomly having like 2 million point events in the middle of the saga and just movement. Most people say if it's higher than 1.5k, you're if it's 1.5k or higher, you're usually gonna move for the event. And honestly, it gets to be a pain in the butt, but at least it was organized. If you from a standpoint of command teams and alliance family leagues and stuff like that, when you don't have that, when you have, say, hey, it's a 500K event, what happens is everybody wants to go out and hunt more XP, and now it's not as organized. You don't know who's gonna leave. You don't know who's gonna want to do what. So I get it. I really do. I like the idea of making opportunities for more people to stay at home. I think for a lot of the larger alliance families, some of those teams will still be able to help because 2 million, they probably do that in a day or two. So we'll see how it goes. Definitely leave your feedback on how the events go and how you feel about the state of events right now. Community. That's some really good artwork in Community Corner this go around. I like that. And let's see, bug fixes and improvement. So this one actually started out because of a war that happened in my alliance. Um, so Alpha Trion and Tarn, they got a bug that made the G1 heal for just stupid amounts of health. So I want to say it was, I can't remember if it was like 30k or 300k or something like that. But it was like they were giving out stupid amounts of health if you had the G1 core. And so what happened was we actually had a player who he plays the game with 4-star bots, and that's the way he challenges himself. And he wound up getting into this war against a really really good alliance, one of the top alliances, and he beat their base 4 using all 4 stars in Alpha Trion. And so for a second, they actually thought that he was a hacker and stuff like that. And I was like, no, he actually plays the game with 4 stars. Like, he's that good at the game. Like, there's nothing to see here. Because I had a couple people message me about it and stuff like that. And so then that's how the apes discovered, because they, obviously the team started sharing the replays and everything like that. That's how they discovered that Alpha Trion and Tarns G1 was doing way too much healing. So that's something that they got a fix for, and it'll be fixed tomorrow on Thursday, 17th of August. And then next stream is going to be the 7th of September for Space Ape. And that, my friends, is going to be all of the news. So let's go back into the lab and we will see who is all in the chat. And see, I lost the first part of the chat, but let me see. I actually took a screenshot of it this time. So I see my good buddy Stay Puff is got here first. So thanks for joining. You got Big Blade in here. Robert C4, as I mentioned. My moderator and good friend, Mercenary Terror. Make sure you check out his content, guys. He's got some really, really brilliant content out there. Let's see. Lord Avix is in the chat. One of my other moderators and good friends, Chris Harmon, is in the chat as well. Let's see. Who else do we got? I see we got E Rods in the chat. Thanks for joining again. Dennis Moke 86 is in there. Another fellow content creator that I didn't talk about earlier. So definitely check him out, guys. He's in there dropping a lot of knowledge out there for a lot of players. And he just got his first prime win for his alliance. So I really like that. His content's in Russian. So if you want to go in there, if you already speak Russian, but like for me, because I don't speak Russian, I go in there and check everything out with the captions, and it's actually really really good content. So he's doing a lot of helpful things out there. Let's see who else we got. I see I had a lot of my regulars in there talking. LJ Gaff, another one of my regulars, is joining us this evening. Thank you for joining again, buddy. We got Boston is in here as well. Thanks for joining. In addition to Spencer 394, we got Alpha Tryon 1 is back with us again. Professional Husky, another one of the content creators that I was talking about, one of those unofficial content creators. Um, check his content out as well, guys. Let's see. Yeah, and I think we covered that LJ that this is week 5 of the saga. Yeah, Space 8 made a little bit of a mistake when they wrote that. And we got Stanley Michael Tang has joined us as well. Thank you for joining. And it looks like that's what we got so far. So let's talk about. I think I want to talk about. I think I want to talk about the 5-star batch first. So I just closed. I just closed my I just closed my chat. Let me open my chat back up. I closed it by accident. So I think I want to talk a little bit more about the 5-star batch real quick, and how it's been going. So, like I said, we hadn't started testing bots yet. A bunch of us playtesters started asking Dale what's going on, and basically he said it's going to be real soon. But I do want to talk about it a little bit because I put some videos out this past weekend. Now I started off showing those videos to my members. So if you're not a member of the channel, make sure you go ahead and do that. We got 3 different tiers for membership, but you get to see all that stuff in advance. You get to see that stuff really, really early. And right now, I'm working on a project where I want to look at all of the different asset bots. So, and I'm actually going to start ranking the asset bots and talking about what I think they're good at, what they're bad at, so on and so forth. And so that's going to go to my members first. I'm thinking about going to do that this weekend. I was going to start it earlier, but I had ran into some issues. But I think because I'm off on Friday, that I'm going to start talking about the asset meta and all of the asset bots, and I'm going to rank them all the way across. So if you want to see it early, go ahead and join, and get a membership. If not, you'll eventually see it. I'm gonna make it public to everybody, and I want to get back into doing some of the YouTube premieres so that we can all talk about it together. Especially when I start testing different bots and stuff like that. Like a lot of you guys' comments have been really helpful for this 5-star batch. But all of that said, I did a video last week, and a lot of people, honestly, a lot of people got mad at me, man, because there are certain bots that I said I don't want to change. There's certain bots that I said need a lot of work, and then there's certain bots that I said, essentially, I said were trash. And so if you hadn't seen that, go back and check it out. But this dude right here, I was saying is just not that good to me. And so I was talking to a fellow play tester, and I'll be honest with you, that particular tester I don't always see eye to eye with. but he made some good points. And he says if we're gonna bring in another bot like Leozak and Scattershot into the meta, what he was saying was we need to give him good damage. He needs to be at least better than Knockout and at least better than Skids. So I said, you know what? I can see that. I can ride with that because, like, for me, Leo Zach, I just feel like he just has some issues with his melee combat. And I said, I hope that the apes meet us somewhere in the middle just because I don't want him to be a melee bot. I want him to perform more like a jet. And even though he's in a special class. So we're still looking for more info on that to see what's going to happen. But we got to see what his DPS bump is going to look like on his ability. I think he'll be just fine if we can actually if we can get all the apes to go through all of the feedback. So I think for most of us testers, that's the bot we have the most concern with. Um, there are some guys who want a lot of work for Optimal Optimus and T2 Megatron. I don't think it really needs it. If you guys saw my video about him and you saw my last live stream, you probably got some of the answers to why I think that. Originally, I was looking for him to get more range, but I don't think that. I think I might have been wrong, guys. I think that if we leave the range the way it is, he can be the short range bot. However, one of the things we're talking about in test is how popular are these guys? Are these guys, you know, and it's a polarizing statement because one of the things comes up is like how many people actually use this particular bot. And I'll be honest, I wasn't using T2 Megs before I knew he was going to be a 5-star. I started using him when I saw that he was going to be a 5-star, so that I knew I was going to be ready to play. I've been playing with him pretty much every day for a couple of hours or so. So I'm looking forward to him and what he can bring to the meta. I do think that a lot of us need to adjust our tactics a lot in order to make him usable. But he did give me the idea of trying to go look at the asset meta. And honestly, what I want to do today is look at a little bit at firebots. And I think we've just been missing something because we've been looking at asset meta and we've been looking at all the anti-heal, and we hadn't really been looking at that piece where there's going to be that 20% damage boost when acid and fire combine. So I want to talk about that a little bit more in a little bit. Let's see. Uh, Professional Husky asked if I'm on test server. Yeah, I'm on test server. Um, Soldier is in the chat, everybody. So, thanks to Soul for coming up here. If you not already, make sure you subscribe to his channel as well, guys. A really good content creator and one of my mentors that kind of helped me get started. Let's see. So I want to talk about. Now, I actually got fussed out by. I don't want to say I got fussed out by him, but I got called out for uh, my take on Half Show in my last live stream. So I want to explain a little bit because here's my take. And here I just kind of just threw the Onyx Prime Core on him. I was doing some testing with him for a specific reason, but I got called out because, as you know, there are lots of melee bots in this particular batch. But Half Shell, he does for to me, he does what he's supposed to do. He does what he was designed to do, and that was to break down shields. I mean, he's got really, really good damage. I don't have his G1 core right on my account right now. I did request it. I wanted to use it on my live stream, but I hadn't received it yet. And honestly, for what he does, his cost isn't too crazy. A lot of people will say that they want the cost to be reduced, but then it's going to be a spammable 11k attack. And with the G1, it's going to be more than that. I don't think that's a good idea. But yeah, Half Shell and Roadbuster, I think they do what they're supposed to do. And honestly, I'm not looking to go make any major changes to them. I do think Space Ape overplayed their hand a little bit. because I think a lot of us were panicking that the HQ18 shield generators were going to be too much. And because of that, we wound up getting a bot like this. And some people are talking about its pathing being bad. And so my take on it is this: anytime you make a melee bot that has a ranged attack, I feel like its pathing is by default going to be pretty bad. And when I look at certain examples like Half Shield, or even when you look at an example like Leozak, those are the things that we run into. I think that you might have to go use a little bit more effort to try to protect those bots. I mean, he does have decent damage and health. I'm okay with it, but if you're not, let me know in the chat and let me know in the comments if you're not watching me live. What kind of changes you want to see to Half Shield? But I was like, yeah, I really got tore up over that, man. I was just like, there's like dudes like, yeah, I'm gonna call you out because you just said something about Leozak and you didn't say nothing about Half Shell's pathing. But then I told him exactly what I just told you guys, so I think it's gonna be all right. Chris Harmon, I know when we talked earlier in the week, but if you're in the chat, you can see that he's actually a fan of Half Shell. Um, yeah, and it's cool, man. I mean, like for the from a damage aspect, from the shield taking down shields aspect, I think it's I don't want to say I think it's a great but I think he does what he's designed to do. And that's my primary focus is making sure that the bots are working properly and doing what we expected them to do. The strategy part is up to you guys really. So my other moderator, Fox the Bomb, is in the chat. So thanks first off for moderating and thanks for joining us. He says that a lot of bots are dust collectors in the game until the apes buff them. And that's actually a really good point because that's what we were talking about a lot in playtest. We were talking about that these bots that sit up there and collect dust. But what I don't like is this: I don't like having to overhaul all of these bots completely because there's two sides to it. There's bots that the apes just left to be bad, and then there's bots that we just never tried to use because it didn't fit in with the current meta. And so I want to promote that we try these bots. So I didn't, I started trying to use T2. I started trying to use Optimal Optimist, and I was like, man, I kind of like this, and I found the way that I want to use them, and that's what I think the game is all about. And so if you do that, then cool. Now, that's not the way the majority of our community is. We'll get in and we want a bot that'll shoot half the distance of the battlefield or more than half the distance of the battlefield and do 10k damage for 3 plus 2. And that's just not realistic. Now, I will say for some of these bots like T2, I do want to see them come down in cost, but we'll see how it goes. And Big Blade kind of agrees with me. He says people not giving any of the of the batch 13 bots any chances. Robert C4 says I wanted him to be Turtler so we can get King Poseidon. So yeah. So I'm looking at all of these bots, and I'm not making a lot of changes. Malice, I did a video on and talked about him in a live stream. I think he's good where he's at. I think that now I do want to see him get the standard boost that you give to each bot when they get into a 5-star version. But I think with that sort of balance, I think he's gonna be where he needs to be to be. Um, I'm trying to think of the phrase I use because I got into a conversation with a lot of people. They say, "Is this bot war worthy?" And instead of and I think that means different things to different folks. Like I think when somebody says a bot is war worthy, they're saying in a lot of cases, hey, this is the 10 to 15 bots that you use in this game to win. And that's cool, but I always look at it from a statistical standpoint of am I able to take down defenses in the current meta with this particular bot? And so the answer for me with Sentius Malice, particularly when you have the sword of balance? The answer to that is yes. So, and when they go and give him his 5-star stats, I think he's gonna be okay. But like I said, T2 is what led me to where I'm at right now, and so I want to start talking about firebots a little bit. And so for me, I think the firebots are just kind of lacking a little bit. And I actually made a list, and I want to go down the list because part of the problem that I've been having with the asset meta is that the asset meta has been everybody's talking about anti-heal. We started doing stuff like giving knockout more time on his ability 11 just so we could have more anti-heal. And it got frustrating for me because it's like for the first time we always talk about DPS, 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 and we just kind of went away from that with the asset meta. And I didn't understand that because you always gonna want to do damage. You only need to do anti-heal to a certain cluster, that honestly that I think I might have been the first person to try when we started it in test. And so when I start looking at bots, and I'm actually gonna go back for a second. So I'm gonna pull up some of these bots. And when you look at bots that do fire, so I'm just gonna scroll through where you gotta want to take advantage of that 20% bonus that you get while you're already in the asset meta. So you're getting rewarded for doing stuff that you're already doing. So like bots like Ramjet, I'm just like, man, he was one of my favorites for a long time, but all his damage is in a line. So when you look at his ability, I'm just like, shoot, man, like even though they make it wider with the ability 11, am I actually gonna depend on it to try to combo with? Probably not. So then I started looking at other bots. I started looking at bots like that have some fire ability. So I mean, like even bots like Razor Claw, who honestly for me, it's not too many times that I call a bot a bad bot, but he has like a passive, so I don't really consider that like a fire bot. Drag strip, you got to use the ability 11 for. Brawl, you got to use a power core for, which somebody asked me the question earlier, what changes I made to my war team because I put knockout back on my war team again. I took brawl out, and the changes that I made is that you had to use this G1 core for brawl just to get him to do anything fire related, and for the damage that he does with that ability, even with the additional core, at the cost that you get, I mean, he's at level 67 here, so 9.1k of damage. It's good, but the range isn't all that. Not compared to what I'm using when I get. I mean, when I use knockout, it's a little bit shorter range, but I'm getting all that damage against the walls. I'm getting all that damage against the outpost spots, and so I put him back on the team. Now I'll tell you this: a lot of people started using this guy. People started using Scavenger and Rust Dust, and I'm actually going to show that in a test because for me, the range is not where I want it to be for Scavenger and Rust Dust. And I tried it. I tried it for a little while. Um, I actually just stopped using it because low key, I was just like, man, I felt like every time I got into a situation where I had to depend on him, I felt like I was always reaching. I was always reaching a little bit too far to try to get his ability to combo him realistically him and knockout. But with knockout, I see the value because I'm getting so much out of him. And so, to give an example, I'll drop my team here. And this is what I'm saying. So, like, right here, like, I can hit this little section over here. Like, I'm trying to hit over here by that energon storage. And so, the ranges, when you look at it, the ranges kind of don't match up. So, like, from here, I do get a little bit more from knockout. And you do get to use that on that little cluster in the middle. My problem with that is I need the ranges to match up better than they do. You can clearly see that knockouts is way more than scavengers. So when I try to combo that, the ranges are going to misalign. So this is why, for a lot of you guys, when I was talking about my whole thing with T2, this is why I started using knockout shorter, because then I'm going to have those long range options with bots like Acid Storm, which technically we were having a conversation in Discord today. Technically, he doesn't do acid damage, but what he does do is do the acid effect. He was the one that actually really created the acid meta because he um, has that kind of acid gas that takes away the healing and then also combos the acid and fire damage. Uh, my playtester buddy King Grimlock says that Rust Dust needs Alchemist. So that's actually a big point for me. And there's a reason why I didn't put anything on them. But to your point, Rust Dust does need Alchemist. That becomes problematic for me because I like to use my Alchemist. I like to use my Alchemist on Knockout. Now I know a lot of people say, "Oh, we'll just use a G1 and go use Fracas and Nightstick on your Rust Dust or Scavenger." But I just like to go get more damage out of the bots that I do use them on. So I like to use Fracas, Nightstick on a lot of my jets. Um, and I built my teams that way. I just like I told everybody like 2 streams ago, I had to go get advice on my teams, but I didn't like that. I felt like I had to move my alchemist to use on scavenger because when you look at his stats, I mean they're decent, but I was like, now I'm using alchemist on a bot that's got okay damage, just got okay just stats. Period. I mean, it just became something that I just didn't enjoy. So I removed him from my team for that reason. But yeah, to your point, Robert C. Ford, it is frustrating when knockout's ability is there and you can't use scavengers yet. And a part of the problem is I talked about that at I don't think I talked about it on my Discord server, but I was talking about it on Discord with some of my other friends, and the scout animations do come into a factor. It's tough. But yeah, congrats to Spencer 394. Just got the Alchemist Cool. So I'm gonna take Scavenger out, and so let's talk about Trigger Happy. That's who I had in there for a little bit. So when you look at Trigger Happy stats, Trigger Happy can do some damage. Yeah, and especially with the volatile mixture. This is a maxed out version with the ability 11. So you're gonna set the area on fire, do 4.3k, and then the missile's going to prioritize burning defenses, so it's going to cost an additional 8.1k. So gunner class, so decent damage. It's got a gunner self that's going to be like that. But what I like about a lot of these teams that I've been using the fire bots with is I've been using them for their fire, but I like getting good range out of these bots. Now I say it's tough to go use a bot and he's taking up 8 ability points on the first use. But Trigger Happy typically gets the job done. So I get it. But what I wanted to start getting into more was using and this is obviously an old type base. But now when I start looking at the ranges matter and they line up properly. So like say I did have something in this bottom area, that would free me up to use T2 and to also use knockout to try to clear any areas, especially if I had something that was front loaded, anything like that, then that's taken care of. And that's what I'm kind of looking at. I'm kind of looking at right now. I'm studying the concept of layers to try to make these things happen faster. Now, I will say this: one of the things that I did criticize when I was looking at T2 is look at him at the bottom of the screen. I've seen him just kind of just start wandering around at times, and his visually he's off. Um, I go back and forth about whether or not I want him to have more range or not because my complaint earlier was that Knockout had all the range, and I had planned on using him short. But I've gone back and forth on whether I actually need that or not, just depending on how I use them. But I think the layers matter when you're looking at using acid and fire together. Striker 3124 joint and asked me what's knockout stats. I can show you. And I say thanks for joining, by the way. I don't know if I've seen you around here before, so thanks for joining. But yeah, we can take a look at those stats. And so that's what I've been looking at more because, when I look at the fire bots, I mean, for the ones that we have at 5 star, it's only a couple of them that we actually want to use in wars. And I think people kind of just started forcing scavenger into the teams um, and rust dust into the teams when they started kind of forcing them in there when we got the asset meta and said we were getting the extra 20%. And I'll talk about that in a second because honestly, there's a lot of knocks against fire in the game. It's actually kind of frustrating. But yeah, that's the striker. That's the knockout. And this is actually the exact. This is the test server that I'm using, but this is exactly how I got knockout set up on my actual war team on a live server. I just took him to level 70 last weekend, and yeah, I use him with a maxed out fire line, a maxed out alchemist prime core. Really hard to kill. Um, and I like to use Alchemist on him. Like I was saying earlier, the King Grimlock is because I know I'm getting all that additional damage from all those other things. I'm getting the additional damage when I'm doing the walls, minions, and outpost spots. So he's going to heal at a really, really fast rate. And that's kind of what I like. Mercenary Terrorist says Justice for Snapdragon. Big Blade says Breakdown for 5 star. But yeah, man, like I just want the fire bots to do a little bit more. I actually started because I got a decent. It's not high level. I think I got them like 58 or 59 on my playtest account. But I actually want to start taking a look at Swindle, just because I do feel like I'm probably not going back into the batch for Trigger Happy. I just typically don't go backwards in the batches unless something like it would have to be something really bad that comes out before I do that. But I just started looking at different levels and trying to go use acid and fire together. And I honestly want to see more fire bots, and this is why I was actually really happy that I discovered some of the things I did about T2 because it seems like he could be really really good in the short range game and a decent damage fire, but he is kind of expensive, so I don't like that. And I'm gonna go get rid of some of that. But yeah, like he's got great range over here on, so I compare him with Acid Storm really well. So I might actually start leveling him up so that I can just get through some of this stuff faster. Um, you can see as I did for my last video, I still got Headstrong in there, so I can actually save some ability points on using Swindle for you guys on the Autobot side. That's you guys is Sunstreaker. But it's not bad. It's not bad at all. But all these firebots that we have, they're expensive, and for years we weren't using them. We weren't using them because nobody wanted to use damage over time. But one thing that I've been saying anytime I'm looking at the firebot, and Now acid is all about the anti-heal, but with acid and fire bots, one of the things that you really want, you want range because you're gonna have to wait for that damage to occur. Usually over a course of however many seconds, usually about 10 seconds, sometimes longer. So that's what I'm kind of looking at. And to your point, Robert C4, T2 megs and 5+2. That's exactly what I've been asking for. I'd like to see him at 5+2, and that's what I wrote in my survey when I sent it in to Space Aid. Um, I think that's fair. And then I would say don't even change him for real at that point, other than fix his animation. And to your point, Big Blade, people need to learn patience with DOT. Um, so you do need to learn patience with damage over time. However, if you're in the front loaded base and you're getting pounded on, you kind of your patience kind of runs out really quick. Like I'm a patient guy, but that's like, dude, that's like I'm getting killed out here. I need whatever it is I'm attacking from an AOE standpoint to die, and that's why I like range when you're dealing with DOT. King Grimlock says, "Too bad they failed so hard with Ramjet ability 11 on his G1 because they could have had a weaker version of Vector. I mean, they could have, but think about what was going on at the time. There was a lot of talk about him being overpowered, and I'm not saying that you're wrong. I actually agree with you, but when all the talk centered around this bot is like, oh, he's overpowered, he's popping all of the outpost bots. It was just the wrong time to even try to pursue that. And that's like, as soon as I saw them start trying to work a G1 and start working ability 11, I was like, I knew in my head, I said, whatever happens next, this core is gonna suck. And I was like, and this ability 11 is gonna suck because everything that's being talked about this bot right now is about him being overpowered, and all the talk around him is negative right now. So, uh, timing does matter. A lot of times you'll hear me talk on the channel about the timing of certain things, and I'll say the timing is absolutely perfect for certain things when they go bring in new content. Like, for example, like I was talking about those events, it was the worst time possible to try to go make small events. You had just introduced a new feature in Alliance HQ, and people were twitching out about it. They was like, "Hey man, I got to make sure I donate." But now I also want to make sure I go get my XP. Timing does matter when you introduce new content to the game. And in a couple of times the apes did it brilliantly. A couple of times I was like, "Ah man, you should have thought about this a little bit." So LJ Gaff said, keep in mind that Vortex does the same damage as Swindle and is cheaper, plus a fire effect from his G1 core. That's a good point. And that is one thing that came up for all of you guys that know Deception from Scorched Earth. Uh, he's high on him, his channel to punish and enslave. He's got a real good tutorial on how to use Vortex. And he's been rooting for Vortex to be in the batch. We hadn't got there yet, but let me see what level I got him at on my test server. I know I got him at a decent level on my live server. But yeah, I only got him at 58 on here. I would actually show it off. But yeah, with this G1 core, you do get to deal that fire damage. And maybe that's something that I go look at in a future video, like really, really soon. Because I do want to I'm curious. I do want to check out his range and everything again. Like I've looked at it before, but I think that it'll work really well. I do think that it could work really well. And he is stupid cheap. So I get it. I told Deception a couple of times. I was like, look, I hope you get this bot, man. Like I think it'll be cool. There's some people that is gonna be like he sucks because when you look at some of his other stats, and let's be honest, a lot of people his health was always really low, so I think that's the concern. But if they go in there and they tweak that a little bit and let him be a viable gunner, he's obviously a gunner that was in here earlier in the game, and you let him run his G1 and you let him do his damage and do some AoE. I think it's cold. So I just want to check his range again real quick because as I remember, it's pretty good. That's not bad. There's some up there better, but you go run that G1 and you go using in a combo. That AOE range is actually really really wide. So when you go look at something like that, I'm like, shoot, man. Nah, I see your point. That's a good call, LJ. Just on, oops, I minimized my screen by accident. Yeah, that's a good call on that too. That's another one that I actually want to look at and take a look at a little bit harder. Even though I do kind of hate with you when you have to depend on the G1 core. That was one of my knocks with Brawl. But I do get it though. If you got it and you're willing to use those G1s, then it does work. Oh, and thanks for that, King Grimlock. I mean, thanks for that, Robert C. Full. King Grimlock was asking who's the Vortex counterpart, but yeah, it's Dust Up. King Grimlock, like, never mind, man. I don't use that bot. All right, man. So the other thing I wanted to talk about, and I think that, and I actually need to go make a better base on my test account for real. I got like terrible outpost spots up here and stuff. Oh, some of them. But what I was looking for, so you guys do were on the last stream. You saw that I picked up Terramander, and honestly, like shortly after that, I wound up playing in the war with Scorched Moon, and you're having a really good time because it's a really competitive war. Their commander, Crazy Nelson, uh, putting together. Well, it was funny because he found a layout that looked really familiar to us, but he used his Terramander in there on defense, and I was already thinking that I was probably going to use him on defense at some point, but I thought I had his G1 in here somewhere. Oh, that's on my live account that I got it. But I like what this ability does defensively, so I think that I'm gonna be trying to work on that for my on my live account, just because you're lowering enemy damage by 60%, and it's lasting for a really long time. It's for 17 seconds. So when I was actually fighting against his Terramander and Top Spin, well, for we're both cons, but it showed up as Top Spin for me when I was fighting them, and it just took forever to take this dude down. And that was like really the only reason I actually lost the first time that I fought against him, and I wound up beating him on the next turnaround. But I was just like, man, like this is really really good. Now a lot of people talk about all the different ways that you can use them offensively and stuff like that. They talk about adding in sky links and stuff like that, and that's cool. Honestly, I've been telling people if you're going to use them on offense, use them with like I got him and I got Slipstream. Like Slipstream's in the cooker right now. That's one of the better combos to use. But my focus today is more gonna be so on defense. So I'm gonna take a look at that real quick. Now go into the base trial so we can. All right, Robert C4 says rockets go in the wrong places with Terramander. Um, it depends. It depends on how you use them. If you get a real well placed hollow out there, it'll just go completely sideways. Um, in most cases, most cases it'll do what you need it to do. Jamie Carpenter, thanks for joining, and been saying really appreciate the content. I've been appreciate all the love you've been giving me too, including I accidentally dropped off my blog. But I say, and I appreciate the feedback you've been giving too. Um, I got my reasons for a lot of stuff, the way that I look at stuff, but a lot of stuff is also becomes play style dependent too. So, but I do when guys give me feedback, you never really hear me bite anybody's head off for any type of feedback because and it does make me think about things, and I start thinking about I started thinking a lot about this Leo Zach stuff after I talked to a lot of people about it. So it's cool. It's cool. So I'm just gonna allow my Fangtron to kind of pop the outpost here and see what happens because I think it's gonna target it. Okay, so yeah, it still wound up hitting. It still wound up hitting blot, but that 17 seconds is a long time. Like that cloud is still there, and the thing is, here's what got me. Every time you walk into it, and this is what messed me up when I was playing crazy the other day. Even if I go use like an aerial bot, air type bot, to go shoot over that cloud, it's still gonna get caught in that cloud, and that's so problematic because now he's gonna be slowed down. He's gonna have that 60% reduction, and I was like, man, this is really tough. So I had to go find a bunch of ways to navigate around it, and that's a pretty strong rocket, especially when you get the G1. But I don't have the G1 on this particular account. I got it on my live account, and especially for me, this is my first. It was my first time seeing him in that outpost for that particular war. But just watch the effect that he takes. So everybody that touches that is now covered in that cloud, and everybody is now going to do less defense. Now back here, obviously you got Lyle Kaiser and they're hacking them. But while I'm under that 17 seconds of not being able to do much damage, it's actually becomes really, really tough, especially if you are surrounded by walls and stuff. Um, on a front loaded base type scenario. But it just makes it really, really difficult to do much of anything. Now, I will say I probably wouldn't use Lyle Kaiser in this particular situation. I'd probably sit him somewhere else, knowing that I have that damage reduction on. But even there, you can see that it's slowing down how much damage they're taking because they're not doing much damage to each other because of the reduction. But Big Blade says now I want a 4-star top spin. But yeah, man, that's kind of what I'm looking at, man. I'm thinking about that, and I probably, as I get more proficient, how I want to approach that and what scenarios that I would use top spin and Terramander in, I'll probably redo a video about those bots. But that's kind of what I'm looking at for this week. Um, you know, but my big project for the week is to start looking at the asset bots and start to rank them up and down. I started talking to some of you guys that are in my Discord. I started talking to some of them about it. If you're not in my Discord, then you can always go in there and sign up. The link is in the bio of my channel, and it's also in the link for every single video that I make. But yeah, we had a lot of fun conversations in there, and we talk a little bit about strategy in there. So but all right, guys, I think I'm gonna call it an evening. Thank all of you guys for joining, and like I said, man, grab that membership, man. Grab that membership if you can because you get to see all my content early and stuff like that. So, but um, my plan is to go make more of the asset. I'm gonna start the asset meta series this weekend is my goal, and so I'll see you guys for those videos, and I will also see you on the battlefield. Freezy is out.